there was no name change. There was only an enhancement to it. Earlier this spring, I earned my doctoral degree in one of the healthcare fields. I'm not going to divulge which one because I don't need any of the marks in that field to hound me with their inquiries about the show. So, for all intents and purposes, all you people need to know is that, yes, I'm Doc Savage, and I do have an actual doctoral degree in one of the healthcare fields, and that's all I got to say about that. The idea behind Melee was easy. I'm a big fan of Screen Junkies Movie Fights YouTube program, and I'm a fan of Collider's Movie Trivia Schmodown program, also on YouTube. And I thought, hey, I'm entertained by this, and both concepts apply to wrestling fans. So why not, throw them at the table in the Melee Arena, now the Melee Studio, and have a contest to see who's better. I mean, wrestling fans always have an opinion, so at least this way you can shut up the marks who don't really know what they're talking about. And as for how the concept was fully fleshed out, I spent some time going over the logistics, with my inner circle. A lot of them, basically the season 1 mainstays, like the Lex and the First Take, Your Mom's Best Friend. He's now Raw, and of course the co-commissioners of Melee, F-Bomb and Scotch Bonnet. And they were a huge driving force, and so was my brother Ignacio, who many of you have seen in season 1. So yeah, I mean, it's basically everyone from season 1 minus the Bay Area kid and the Irish exit, but for the most part it was everyone else who kind of helped us really drive the show. Yes, surprise, surprise, the famed Ignacio, the master debater, is my brother. And, it took family to get this off the ground, and he was an instrumental part. He was part of he was the winner of the first ever Melee. And he seemed like he was on a trajectory to go through the competition and eventually become our champion, but things didn't work out that way. I mean, what is there to say about why we cut ties with Ignacio? We were getting down to... He had already 2 big wins over Irish Exit in our first ever Melee, and he proved himself again against the First Take. He defeated the First Take. When we got down to the rule of the Melee, and it was time to really think about who's going to win that Melee Rumble, because the prize for being the ruler of the Melee is you get to come in at number 10. It's like being number 30 in the Royal Rumble. That's the prime spot, and Ignacio started arguing over why he has to prove himself, and go through all these hurdles to be champion. He wanted me to hand the belt to him, and that's not something I was comfortable with. I mean, you have this new concept like Pro Wrestling Melee, something the first of its kind in the space, and you really have to prove yourself. And for him to just say, no, I should be the champion because you've beaten 2 guys, that wasn't enough for me. We had our dispute. He basically said he was done with it. He wanted to hold the show hostage, and I wasn't going to let that happen. So I booted him. I vacated his wins. So, yeah, he's undefeated, but he's also winless, if you want to go with technicalities. And I can't say that the blow didn't hurt because, again, that's my brother. We spent so much time. We were on the warpath of him colliding with Your Mom's Best Friend. I think it's well known that they don't get along both on the show and in real life. Just 2 different people who don't sync well with each other. And I thought, whether that was going to be for the title or just a grudge match, I thought that was the match that had the most sizzle as we were heading into our stretch at the end of season 1. But Didn't work out that way. Your mom's best friend was left without a dance partner for Mania. And, we've all moved on, hopefully to better things. To satisfy your question, I will say that I haven't really had much contact with Ignacio. So, if that's what you were looking for, around Melee, he's persona non grata. Let's put it like that. The decision to make the Melee World Championship the prize to the Melee Rumble winner in 2016 was more so we rented out a space to do our it was going to be our biggest taping, 10 people. And unfortunately, the weather didn't really want to work with us. We had this huge snowstorm here in NYC that weekend, and that kept certain competitors from making the taping on time. And with 5 people just present to be part of the show, you have to learn how to adapt. I think that's evident of what happens when Bray Wyatt becomes ill and can't compete on a pay-per-view. Well, you throw AJ Styles in there and you get a great match. And that's something that's a cornerstone of being in the wrestling business. I mean, we're not a promotion, but you learn from the people that you're around. And, I mean, it just made sense to make the championship the prize at the end of the Rumble, and we got a hell of a Rumble out of it. I mean, there were some technical difficulties near the end, but it all worked out, and the Lex went in at number 1, knocked out 4 other competitors. I mean, he eliminated 4 other competitors and won himself the title. I mean, the Lex is fine. He's a fine champion. I mean, he went into the Rumble having lost in episode 3 of season 1 to the First Take, but they ended up having themselves a nice competition. Lex wins the Rumble. He eliminates the First Take in the process, and then he defends against the First Take, which I thought, you got to go with the hot hands, and the First Take had been on the show more than anybody else at that point, and they had chemistry. They were 2 of my best, so make it the main event of MELEE Mania. And they did what they needed to do. Lex proved he was the better man on that day, and then he definitely solidified his spot by knocking out your mom's best friend in probably the worst Melee we've ever had from a competitive standpoint. I mean, we've had some bad ones that were still entertaining. There was nothing entertaining about the ass whooping that your mom's best friend took, and that's why that episode ended up becoming the first iteration that I allowed you guys to use for Melee Unhinged, and I think you did a phenomenal job with that, especially using the Rick and Morty scenes in that. It was just an ass whooping. So the Lex is very fortunate. He's very fortunate that I haven't really entered the singles competition yet, and he's fortunate that he hasn't had to face anybody here in season 2 that's lighting it up like the 2 members of Under the Influence, THC and 100 Proof, or either the guys from Legion or any of the new people that we're going to be showcasing over the coming weeks. He's very lucky, and he is blessed because he hasn't had to sit across from me and face me yet in a Melee. So count your blessings, Lex. Light as many candles as you need, because eventually, like I said, I'm coming for the gold. So you want to know about the events that knocked me out. That's a very nice way to frame a question of, hey, what happened after you were attacked? Because that's what happened. I was cheap shotted. I was cheap shotted by some punk ass who, I mean, think about it. What greater way to ruin someone's debut? I debut in the first ever tag Melee with Scotch Bonnet. I win out all my debate questions. I nail all my trivia. I mean, I had to use multiple choice on one, but hey, it happens to the best of us. I throw a perfect game. I carry that team on my back. I score more points than my opponents combined. And what's the best way to really ruin my shining moment, my shining achievement? Well, how about some schmuck breaks into my office, steals the Ignacio mask right out of my office, and decides to cheap shot me, take me out, and then throw the festivities of Melee Mania 1 out of whack. We had to tape the main event 2 weeks after the other Melees, which is a huge black eye, if you ask me. And I don't think anyone could have planned a better way to F with me and my dream for this program than to knock me out. And, as a favor to you guys, I've thrown up the video of the assault on the Melee Entertainment channel. So for anyone who's curious what we're referring to, you could watch it there. I mean, I've moved on. I've evolved from what I was before, so I have no problem sharing that moment in time with any of you. No, the authorities haven't figured out who's responsible for attacking me. The one thing I can verify is it definitely wasn't Ignacio. Like I said, I had his mask, and the description of my assailant, I mean, you see it on the video, looks nothing like Ignacio. That person doesn't have to worry about the authorities. That person has to worry about me, because I'm the one coming for them. Don't worry about the authorities. You worry about me. You worry about what I'm going to do to you once I get a hold of you. I'm glad you asked that question, because I can honestly say I don't wear these sunglasses for the benefit of television. The shots to the head didn't do much damage, but they were close enough to my eye where the way the doctor described it was I have damage with my photoreceptors that left me with a lot of sensitivity to light. So for the most part, I have to wear sunglasses. I mean, they haven't stated if the effects are permanent, but it's probably the best scenario. I mean, I look great with sunglasses anyway, and it allows me to honor the great Randy Savage, I guess, now all the time. So it is what it is. Season 2 has been strong. I mean, not the first episode, absolutely not. That was brutality at its finest when the Lex just demolished your mom's best friend. I mean, I think your mom's best friend is basically in witness protection since then. Our tag team tournament has been fantastic. I really appreciate the outing that Legion had with Under the Influence, and I also appreciated the Melee before that. Ra came so close to picking up his first win, hosting in my return. I really thought he was going to get it, but it seems that trivia is his Achilles heel. I mean, he's definitely upped his debate game, but trivia, he just really struggles with that. And, we have the ruler of the Melee tournament back, which we can't even call a tournament because, the diva known as the First Take has decided to just take on more acting gigs despite the commitment he made to this program, but I'll deal with him on my time. And we got a lot of great things coming up. WWE has their core four, and we don't have a core four. We have our Holy Trinity here. So you've already seen Verbal Assault, and now our December event's going to be Supernova. And then, of course, we're going to end our season with Melee Mania 2. So get ready, because Supernova's coming, and we're going to definitely escalate all the work that everyone's put in so far. It's going to be Under the Influence, taking on the team of the Lex and the First Take. I mean, you could say the Lex and the First Take are dangerous, but I'm more impressed by Under the Influence. A lot of big things are happening for me. So again, we have Supernova coming up, and I have some huge announcements about that later. I don't want to give you too much of that. And I'm proud to say that I reached out to the Evolve Wrestling promotion about certain opportunities, and I now have a crucial opportunity in being a event promoter right now. I'm kind of in the tryout phase. I'm trying to promote Evolve 96 over here in Queens, New York. December 9th, 8 p.m. It's going to be a tremendous show. We got Zack Sabre Jr. from Suzuki Gun Stable in New Japan. He's the Evolve champion. We got Keith Lee, so all of you come out to bask in his glory. We got Walter from Progress Wrestling on the card. William Regal is tentatively scheduled to make an appearance at the event, and I've been dying to just shake the man's hand. He's a legend in this business. There's more knowledge in that man's brain than I think in the collective mind of all wrestling fans alike. So I'm just chomping at the bit to prove myself within that organization. I really hope that by proving myself, I can do what I've always done. Put this company, Pro Wrestling Melee, on my back and take it with me and just, rocket strap to the highest level. So, that's what's down the pipe. And I'll tell you this, I will be featured more in Melees going forward. I'm not ready to say when, but the safest bet, I guarantee you, come MELEE Mania 2, I'm done with the tag division, and I'm coming straight for who's ever in my way to the title. Yeah, you're welcome. I think you've taken enough of my time. I think now it's time for you to get the hell out of my studio and let me get ready to write up some melees. So to all the fans, thank you for your support. I wanted to create this competition to prove my worth, and that's how all of you should take it. No hurt feelings, just legit savagery. So, thanks.
Ah, savage. Don't hunt what you can't kill? That's cute. My intention was never to kill you. Maybe mess around. It was an invitation to the game. I like games. I was simply joining the melee. You and I will be the players. You were temporarily removed from the board while I set the stage. Melee will be our board. Things have changed while you were gone, and I'm no longer hiding. By now, you'll probably suspect I'm not alone. Who can you trust? I asked if you were ready for what's next. I have so much more planned. And of course, I've sent others. Prepare. Let the games begin.